So today we will be reviewing and looking back on Pet Sematary, not the trash reboot, the original. Obviously based on the novel by Stephen King, with him even stating this is his darkest book he's written. The Pet Sematary is across from the recently arrived Creedy family, having recently moved in after Father Lewis gets a job as a physician at a university. Lewis has a daughter Ellie, wife Rachel, and adorable son Gage. While swinging on a tire, the branch breaks and Ellie is hurt. While attending Ellie, they both leave the youngest child Gage as he wanders onto a road. Luckily, neighbor Judd Crandall saves the day this time. Rachel asks Judd about the road, and he says,
"Yeah, that's a good story. A good walk. I'll take you up there sometime. Tell you the story, too."
Later that night, he gets scared by the family cat named Church.
Scared the life out of me, Church.
Judd tells Lewis that he needs to get the cat neutered or it will eventually get ran over. The next morning, Judd takes him to the pet cemetery. Explains to the Creed family that most of the animals there are from roadkill. The next morning, Ellie says that she doesn't want Church's nuts to be cut off after being told by Mrs. Dandridge. Rachel forces Lewis to promise to Ellie that the cat will be okay.
Thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. But if anything does happen while he's under the gas, now it's a 1 in 1,000 shot, but it does happen. You explain it to her.
Lewis thanks Mrs. Dandridge for teaching her daughter that language.
Don't mention it.
His first day of working, a teenager named Victor Pascal was rushed in because he is hit by a truck and he is not looking too good. Actually dies, but not before telling Lewis this.
The soil of a man's heart is stonier.
He is understandably freaked out because he said Lewis's name.
How did you know my name?
Rachel leaves with the kids back to Chicago for Thanksgiving while Lewis stays due to bad tension with her family. Church is found dead by Judd and tells Lewis,
Yep, that's alright.
Lewis thinks they're going to bury Church at the pet cemetery, but Judd wants to take them to the other side of it. After climbing all the way up, they finally make it to the top of a cliff. Lewis buries Church and heads back home, and Judd says to not say a one word to Ellie and Rachel of what occurred that night.
You talk to him. Not one word about what we done tonight.
Next morning, Lewis finds Church alive and goes to Judd. Judd gives him a backstory of his dog, who he buried there too, and his dog came back to life, just not the same as he knew. Ellie, Rachel, and Gage come back from the Thanksgiving trip. Mrs. Dangerous then goes and hangs herself. I really don't know why, but it happens. Stephen King with a quick cameo.
And give you peace. Amen.
Later that night, Rachel talks to Lewis about her sister who has spinal meningitis. Rachel explains that her sister was kept like a dirty secret, and when she started choking, she let her sister die. She explains she let her die for her sister and for herself. Lewis hugs and comforts her. The family and Judd go on a picnic the next day. While Ellie has a fit with her turn with the kite, Lewis loses vision on Gage. During this time, a truck is full speed ahead. Lewis runs and tries to get Gage, but it's too late and he trips. The truck and Gage collide, and we hear the most awful and agonizing scream a person can make. At Gage's funeral, Rachel's dad blames him and he hands him a fist to the face. His casket is knocked over and Lewis reasonably freaks out. Judd knows that Lewis is thinking about burying Gage at the pet cemetery. He tells another flashback where someone tried the same thing and the person came out a monster. They then had to take care of it and burn the house down. The zombie-like person kills himself and his dad while in the house to the flames. Rachel and Ellie head back to Chicago with her family while Lewis heads to the cemetery that Gage is buried in. With help by the ghost of Victor Pascal, Rachel gets concerned about Lewis and takes a flight back. Lewis hides from the police while digging up Gage's casket. He holds Gage's dead body while affirming him that everything is going to be alright.
I swear it's going to be alright.
Lewis buries Gage and heads back home to sleep. On her way back, Rachel's tires bust and puts her off the road. Gage goes back home and grabs a scalpel from Ellie's purse. Asleep, Judd wakes up and sees footprints going into his house. While looking under the bed, Judd is scalpeled in his heel and he falls back in pain. Gage then slits his mouth open and starts to bite into his neck in a very gruesome scene. Rachel arrives at Judd's house and walks in. She walks into his room and sees her sister momentarily and then Gage. She goes to hug Gage and is killed off screen. Lewis wakes up when he falls off the bed and gets a call from Gage.
First I played with Judd, then Mommy came and I played with Mommy.
He realizes he messed up and leaves to stop him. Before entering, he sees Church and puts him down permanently. He walks up the stairs and Rachel's body falls on him. Gage stabs into him. Lewis finally gets control and throws Gage away. A needle is then put into Gage's neck and finally puts him to rest. He leaves by burning the house down and taking his dead wife's body. He stupidly buries his wife's body at the pet cemetery and waits for her to come back home. He waits for her and she finally walks back into the door. And the movie ends with a scream, assuming that Rachel killed him. It's time to rate the movie. If you watch the movie for the first time, you'll definitely feel the suspense and agony as Gage dies for the first time. So I'll give suspense an A-. The movie really isn't scary, it's more the feeling of emotion you get from the horror happening. So I'll give horror a C. There's not much action in the movie, but that's not the point the movie is making. Either way, action is a C+. I find this movie really funny. Combined with all the acting and kid moments in the movie, I'll give comedy a B-. I think in all, the movie's a solid B+ movie. I personally love it and I cry every single time I watch the movie. I hope you guys like the video. Like, subscribe, and have a good day.